they've been in their own business for 25 years. That is going to depend, or we're going to have to then look at the different insurers, and we can send it to one insurer, but we can't send it to another. So they do have differences of opinions on that. So this is actually a really short and sweet presentation. So again, at this point I will actually stop. Does anyone have questions on the self-employed program or anything that we've covered up until now? Yes?
Can we get a list of incomes which they will use for assessment?
Oh, of what they're going to use? I don't know. Is there websites that they can go to?
You mean when they're looking at the reasonability test? They don't really disclose that info to us. They have their own internal guidelines.
They're just going to state something
but isn't
in
it
that, right?
public knowledge? I mean,
Not really. No, they don't. They use a number of different sites that they look at it, and it says, like, let's say somebody is a contractor. There's a range of most contractors in Canada file, and they can look at that information. If someone's declaring $250,000, they can look at that site and go, well, you know, they usually only make 60 or 70, and that's the number they'll use. But I don't believe that we have access to it.
but in the States it's available free.
Yeah,
It is
Yeah,
available
here
free.
it's not so
If you
much.
guys want to know, we serve a lot of business immigrants, so we use labor market information. So you Google LMI for BC or for any province, and you will find it. Okay, LMI.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's also important to know as well, one of the, which is on our to-do list here, having a mortgage broker that you can go to and using as a resource. Because we deal with these, we can literally call up any one of our lenders right now and have a one-on-one conversation with them. There is gray area. If you do have a contractor and maybe he really does make a crazy amount of income because he has so many people working for him or so many projects on the go, we're able to have that relationship to somewhat tell, you know, the real truth of the situation. And if there is a good argument for it, there is always that possibility of things happening as well. So that's really important to have a good relationship with your broker, because we do speak to the lenders one-on-one every single day. So leading that into the to-do list, or is there any other questions before moving on? All right, so first thing on your to-do list is definitely knowing your mortgage broker. It's not, you know, especially for the realtors in the room, you're spending all of this time with your clients, and to just say, go to your bank, you know, and take care of it on your own. Not what I would encourage, because with the banks, they have very tight regulations. They also, you know, they're out to make as much of an interest rate as possible, so maybe your client won't qualify for as much, or whatever the case may be. We're actually able to handhold your client and ensure that it's getting done. Plus, we're able to call you, and we can kind of tag team with you on the client to make sure that they're getting us the paperwork that we need in a certain amount of time. Make sure that you hit your subject removal deadlines on time. Now, full disclosure of income and sources. This is more for clients. For those of you who are getting a mortgage yourself, you have to fully disclose not just what you make, but where the sources are coming from. There is, again, a lot of gray area in terms of income, and so if you think you make $80,000 a year, because that's what you made last year, it might not be. You may only make $60,000 because of a 2-year average, or based on your commissions and bonuses that aren't going to qualify, or things of that nature. So you need to not just disclose your income, but always your sources. And prepare your documents early. You know, if you go into the bank and ask for pre-approval, which is actually the next point on here, getting pre-approved, you go into your bank and they'll say, well, how much do you make? Do you have any other payments? Are they taking things for face value? And they're basically saying, well, based on what you tell us, if all that is true, then you qualify for X amount. If you go to a mortgage broker, then they're not only going to ask you those questions and take you for face value, but then they're going to follow up on you and say, okay, let's start getting that paperwork together. And essentially what they're doing is they're going through the full approval process for you, so that when you, as a realtor, take your client, or as a client, you find that home of your dreams, and then you go to get approved, and you realize, well, I thought I made this much, or, oh, I thought I could get my paperwork together, or I thought I had this down payment. You mean I can't use my credit card for my down payment, or whatever the case may be? You're not going to have that disappointment of losing the property. So get your documents before even looking at properties. You know, get everything in order. And then again, confirming the pre-approval with the appropriate paperwork. The mortgage broker should go all through that for you. If you're unsure what paperwork you are going to need, ask, and they will definitely let you know. So with that being said, is there any questions? Because we're there. We've gone through all of the new requirements. Yes?
Are you still giving out 120 days guarantee on the rate?
It depends on the lender. Some of them are 60, some are 90, some are 120. It's all internal policy. And so yeah, depending on what the rate is, your broker can let you know at that time what the rate hold is. That's something to note as well. If you want to get pre-approved, a lot of us brokers in the room here, we can do that on the phone for you. We can give you just a pre-approval of an amount. But if you want to get an actual rate hold, you need to let us know, because that actually takes a bit more of a process to go through. We have to start actually choosing which lender you're going to go with and pre-approve you and give you that rate hold of 90 or 120 days. But a general pre-approval, we can tell you a number to get going, but it's different than a rate lock. Any other questions? You guys are all awesome. You know what you're talking about now? All right. Well, I guess Wayne, do you want to close this up?
Sure. The final thing I wanted to say, I guess, is for the realtors out here, or people who are sending their clients to the bank or anything, to plug the mortgage brokerage industry with these new financing rules and things like that, you really should have a broker as a first choice, but definitely a broker as a second choice, just as a second opinion. The reason is we didn't want to make this too technical, but as we showed in an earlier slide, there was 3 insurance companies. But realistically, not all the banks use all 3. For example, very few lending institutions use AIG. I mean, they're probably going to be disappearing off the map. So when you need, say, a basement suite income or a self-employed program, there are variances from not only the institutional internal guidelines, but also with the insurance company. So, for example, I'll give you a classic example. Scotiabank does use Genworth, and Genworth does do illegal basement suites, which is great for Vancouver. But Scotiabank does not. So if you send your client to Scotiabank, that's their home bank, and they want to purchase something, they're going to qualify them basically only on their income without any rental income. So you would want, if they want to buy something a little bit more expensive, you want a second opinion. And that's where, as a broker, that's where we come in, because we can mix and match between the insurers and the lenders. We know what each one does. We could, in a sense, get them a little bit more money to get into that dream home in Vancouver, rather than, say, moving out to Burnaby, which is not a bad thing. Okay. So I mean, I think that I would encourage you, use a broker to begin with, because there's 40, 50 different lenders, and there's all mix and match. But more importantly, if the client says that, oh, I've been to see my bank, this is what they qualified before, but it doesn't line up with what their expectations is, at least give one of the brokers in this room a call, get a second opinion. We may be able to get them that little bit extra to get them into the home that they want. Okay. Other than that, we will be around if you have any further questions. And thank you all for coming, and best of luck in the spring market.